Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We are here at Broadband World Forum 2016 in London Docklands. I'm talking with an old friend, Chris Lewis, Managing Director of Lewis Insights. Chris, great to see you. What services do you see as the business drivers for network transformation and investment in high-speed networks?
It's pretty simple, Martin. The services that are going to support businesses going forward are fundamentally broadband. And what I mean by broadband is actually finally the coming together of fixed and mobile, the ability for customers to get access to those services wherever and whenever they need them, underpinning whatever personal and business activities we want to carry out. So the services, where we've seen this multiplicity of services in the past, dedicated to certain activities that we might do, actually they're going to blend together into that bundle, that package of services that basically underpin our lifestyles.
Right. One of the things that people tend to be rather coy about when you ask them questions about network transformations is money. Where's the ROI for service providers, do you think?
Investment within the telecom industry has always been an interesting puzzle. In the days of the monopolistic side, of course, it was much less of an issue because it took a long time to roll services out. But as we move into this next digital era, then obviously services need to be much quicker. There's two sides to it. One is making the services simpler for the customer to acquire and use, and obviously less faults in there. Mm-hmm. And the second side is internally within the operational side, actually streamlining the processes, the systems, and making sure that if I'm purchasing services, multiple services from an operator, that they're linked together in a way that I can understand it and the network can understand what I'm trying to do. So the operational efficiency, I think, is one of the biggest sides in terms of return on investment, cost efficiency, but also just the simplification of the offer to the outside world.
Okay, thank you. Now, a lot of emphasis has been on the emergence of vertical market players within the greater telecommunications and network infrastructure. What role do you think vertical markets are going to play in shaping the transforming network of the future?
What's interesting about vertical markets and horizontal markets as we sort of flip-flop between them as we've done analysis over the years is that actually ultimately we're trying to underpin those vertical markets. We're trying to help the retail community, the manufacturing, the banking, finance, or whatever. So ultimately the services that we offer have to fit into those industries. So anything which is more vertically orientated is going to help those organizations. In that sense, understanding the way those industries work, making sure we have the right sensors, the right sort of connectivity, the right amalgamation of information and data, that's what's going to drive business value. And that's why we see these specialist operators emerging, and it's why we also see the horizontal players trying to gain relevance in certain vertical areas.
Okay. Now, what role do you think government and the regulator are going to play in shaping the connected society?
Government and regulators have always played a major role in shaping this new digital society. I think what is interesting now is that as the returns on investment for the traditional operators start to decline, then governments actually have even more of a responsibility to make sure that the right physical infrastructure is being put in place, fibre, spectrum, whatever, but also that the competition at the services layer is right to make sure that we as consumers actually get the right services. So fundamentally building a framework, whether that's at the European level or whether it's at a national level or indeed at a regional level, because we do need to make sure that society is underpinned by this better connectivity for the future. Right.
Now then, the elephant in the room, the giant elephant in the room, any event, any conference, anywhere we go these days, as you will probably be well aware yourself, is Brexit, the impact that Brexit was likely to have on the European telecom sector. So here we go. Do you think the UK will still have access to the single digital market in due course? And if not, will it hamper Britain's 5G and broadband ambitions?
So I think there's actually two elephants dancing around each other there, Martin. So there's the issue of Brexit, and then there's the 5G and so on investment. In terms of Brexit, from an economics point of view, analysing it in the cold light of day, it has had an impact, of course. The pound's taken a hammering, so that has an impact on imports and exports. In some ways, of course, it would make some of our UK telecoms properties much cheaper for takeover, which is an interesting prospect. On the other hand, the 5G side and the overall single market, I don't think it's going to have a massive impact, because fundamentally telecoms markets are national. I know we talk about the global market for this and that and the other, but actually they're fundamentally national, and even more than that, they're probably even regional And as we move towards smarter and smarter cities, they're even city-based. So those markets, the European level is, of course, we want a framework to work to, but actually it's not really run on a European level. So no, I don't think Brexit will have a massive impact. I don't think it will have a massive impact on 5G and its investment. What it does need is that governments and regulators work much more closely together to make sure we do get the right infrastructure, so whatever economic activity is built on top of that can actually run smoothly.
Another tricky one for you is this. What do you think is the role of the telco in the emerging digital economy?
The fascinating thing about the emerging digital economy is that even economists can't agree what's happening. That some talk about creating value, some talk about destroying value. The fact is that we have so many industries which were previously completely separate, which are now overlapping each other, which is of course creating opportunities for people to come in and take services. Underlying all of that is an assumption that connectivity will be available at a very affordable, if not free, level. So the role of the telco on the one hand is to provide that underlying connectivity, fixed and mobile, fibre and 5G, allowing us to connect all those devices, adding into it through whatever framework, all the Bluetooth, all the other connections that will allow all the sensors to be linked in. On the other hand, collecting the information, analysing and feeding information into the ecosystem wherever that information is gathered. So the telco is fundamental to it, but so are all the other components, and this is really the coming out phase of the industry. It's not just about telecoms, it's about how telecoms interact with all the other partners in the emerging digital economy.
Thank you. Last question to you then. You talked about software telcos. Whether it's software, whether it's hardware, whether it's old, whether it's new, a lot of the continuing criticism of established incumbent telcos and some of the newer ones is they pay a lot of attention to technology. They pay lip service to the notion of the customer experience. Do you think that they need to really properly address the complaints they continually get from clients big and small about the customer experience if they're ever going to get anywhere?
I think we are facing a fundamental, dare I use the word, volte-face, to drop into French for a second, complete turnaround, in the sense that we used to build from technology out and eventually expose a service to the customer. In the digital economy, it's all about the customer, and therefore the experience they get across all the services they consume, across all the devices. We now even talk about talking to devices like the Echo and Google and so on. So that customer experience becomes absolutely vital. So yes, they do need to adapt. And the good news is, on the basis of the softwareization of the infrastructure, so move away from that sort of clunky old hardware environment towards this more virtualized, agile software environment, we can track everything. And then with artificial intelligence and machine learning on top, we've got all the tools in the kit bag to be able to deal with this. So yes, it's a complete change for the telcos. Customer experience must start with the customer, not with the technology.
Okay, Chris, thanks very much indeed for that. I know you've got your own event, the Great Telco Debate #3, coming up. We'll be seeing you there at that. What's on the agenda?
Well, as in the previous 2 years, a fun-packed agenda. The basic debates that we've got this time, we're looking at the role of telco in the digital economy. We're looking at customer experience and how that's been derived both from a traditional telco and a very greenfield site telco. IoT, of course, and the roles within vertical markets. We'll look at the role of the software telco and the impact that's having on the vendor community and how they're having to change their attitudes. And of course, we're looking at 5G and the relationship that it has with fibre. And in the middle of that, we'll roll a C-level panel looking at some of those board-level dilemmas that are going on around investment, around innovation, around customer experience. And we'll wrap it up with those pesky independent analysts to give their views as to how they see the world evolving.
Well, it was great fun last year, really enjoyable, very different approach to things. I'm looking forward to it. See you there. Till then, Chris Lewis, thanks very much.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Martin.